Okay, let's call this Community Library Network Board of Trustees regular meeting to order. All trustees are here. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And there's the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First item on the agenda is meeting procedures. I just want to remind us all, board members, that in adhering to the open meeting law, we do not take up or discuss items that are not on the agenda. So we accidentally did that last time, and I just wanted to remind us that the open meeting law requires that things that are to be discussed here be on the agenda. The second item on our agenda is public comment, and I have some comments that I would like to make first. First of all, we're going to limit public comment to 30 minutes as we've decided to do. And but that will start when the first person comes up to the podium or starts speaking, or it doesn't start when I make my comments, because I have a few things to say. First and foremost, I want to thank Judy and Regina for their incredible years of service. I am very grateful for all the time and energy and dedication you've put in, and to be working with both of you. Yes, thank you. I also want to read from the public comment policy, as I usually do. The Community Library Network Board of Trustees operates under the Idaho Code open meeting law, and we will be pleased to take comments under advisement, but we will not be responding at this meeting. We are committed to conducting our meetings in a civil, orderly, efficient, and productive manner. Please sign in before speaking, giving your name and community, which people have. Comments should be addressed directly to the board and not to the audience. A limit of 3 minutes is allowed to each speaker, and we have a timer. And a person may speak one time at the podium during the meeting. The next 3 points are ones that I really want to emphasize today. In cases of disagreement, the speaker must use grace and tact. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe a level of civility and decorum appropriate for a board meeting. No personal attacks or disruptions from the audience members will be tolerated, and the board chair may terminate or redirect any presentation not adhering to these guidelines. The election is over. The results are clear. And as far as I know, the results will not be contested. Over the last year and a half of public comment, we've had many instances where as mentioned in our policy, grace, tact, civility, and basic respect for others were not seen as a high priority by the people speaking. I am asking everyone here today to make those things a high priority. In honor of us all, I'm asking everyone to be as decent as possible to everyone else. Please try to direct your remarks to library policy, procedures, or agenda items. If public comment strays into attacking others, I will ask you, as it says in the policy, to redirect your comments, and if you choose not to, I will ask you to stop. I realize that I can't, but I will ask people to be as civil and as decent as possible today. So all of that being said, and thank you for listening, and all of that being said, the first person on to speak today is Bev Moss.
I go a certain.
I think we have this little podium thing set up.
I sit or stand?
You can do whichever you like. Okay.
So I'm Bev Moss. I am a 47-year resident of Coeur d'Alene, but a longtime user of the interlibrary loan. And I'm here today to address the 2 trustees that are going off the board in recognition of years and years of service to our community. And certainly multiple hours at meetings like this, which I can't imagine. So many of us over the years have enjoyed the incredible ability of books to move us and to change our minds even. And we are lucky to have had that all these years. And so I'm here simply to say to Ms. McCray and to Ms. Meyer, it has been a pleasure to have you take leadership, and I really appreciate all you've done. So many of us in Kootenai County, thousands of us in Kootenai County, appreciate what you've done and want to thank you for your service. You are truly, truly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mariana Cochran.
The May 16th election outcome heralds that North Idaho recognizes the significance of protecting kids' hearts, minds, and bodies. The last year and a half has been painful for this community, but it didn't have to be that way. Trustees Meyer and McCray, you had many months of opportunity to learn and understand what your patrons were repeatedly proving, yet those months passed with deflection.
Mariana, I'm really
denial.
asking you to not attack people today.
And yet my predecessor was able to give a direct comment to the trustees. So this is
I
not
have
a
asked people,
Chairman Blank, this is my public opinion for which I have a right.
thank
And
you very
I
much.
heard you clearly. I will do so with civility and decorum. Start that sentence over again. You had many months of opportunities to learn and understand what your patrons were repeatedly proving, yet those months passed with deflection and denial instead, until it became politically expedient to appear to be responsive. However, the voters, outraged parents, and the taxpayers who fund CLN have said enough. The harming of children must cease. The community's rancor and division were a result of your dismissal and disregard, so you own that legacy. M&M will be remembered for misdeeds and misinformation. It's clear there are differences in this community, but the line has been drawn at kids. Despite the anguish of this battle, its positive outcomes are that it surfaced the severity of the need to reevaluate CLN's collection, and it resulted in a significant turnover of this board, a prize worth fighting for. Since we're talking about kids' books, it's apt to quote Dr. Seuss, who exclaimed, "Fight, fight for the butter side up." The current application would be, "Oh, we fought, and the better side is up now." Chairman Blank, consider resigning, since your voice and your vote will be nullified. Or don't, it won't matter. Gene Kranz, the famous NASA director who oversaw the harrowing Apollo 13 mission, wrote, "It isn't equipment that wins the battles. It's the quality and determination of the people fighting for a cause in which they believe." Many, many caring community members bravely and persistently stood up in this modern David and Goliath battle. Clean Books for Kids is committed to our community and its kids. We will continue watching and keeping parents, taxpayers, and voters apprised of progress towards May 16th referendum for changes.
Thank you. Luke Emerson? That.
Hi, Luke Emerson, Corlin. Usually I write stuff, which I did, but I want to make sure that I had the opportunity to thank Judy and Gina. There's, after my 3 deployments so far in the military supporting special forces, people constantly say you're a hero. My parents always taught me that a hero is just an ordinary person who perseveres through overwhelming obstacles. And when I went to go see my parents Sunday for Mother's Day, I had asked my mom kind of advice on how to deal with partisan politics pretty much being injected into nonpartisan elections and dealing with misinformation. And she responded to me by saying, to ensure that I continue with what I was raised with and what I live every day, and that is to continue being the Christian man that, God's called me to be. And so I prayed about it a lot because I didn't know how to handle it when there's a lot of lies and misinformation, and I was directed towards 1 Peter and Romans, not to repay evil with evil, not to repay an insult with an insult, but instead repay evil with a blessing, because that's what we're called to do. And then we'll have blessings in return. And I just want to say thank you guys for being a good, accurate representation of the community, of being somebody who, I was asked multiple times if you guys were left or right, and my answer was an honest answer, and I said, I don't know, it's a nonpartisan election. I really appreciate you guys for not injecting those political feelings of left or right into it. It's what we as a community in Kootenai County really want to strive to be, and that is little government control. And so thank you very much for doing that. And then for the other two trustees that will remain, I think you guys have a lot of work cut out for you. There's a clear knowledge gap with the two trustees coming in that I've seen with from the different board meetings, the debates, and you guys are going to have to guide them and mentor them on what is the most appropriate when it comes to maybe issues are not familiar with. So for the 46% of the Kootenai County residents who voted Tuesday, we are really hoping that you guys can direct them appropriately and what's best for the community as well. So once again, thank you guys. I have my timer going, so I need it for full 3 minutes. You may have not won the election, but you joined a group of people that decided, like Luke Malik and Mary Souza, decided to make sure not compromise their morals to do what's best for the community. And I think that's a great group of people to be with. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Barron.
Thank you so much, Teresa Borenpole, and I live over in Post Falls. Don't worry, Chairwoman, I also had trouble learning it, but he's worth it. So my name is Teresa Borenpole. I live over in Post Falls, and I read an incredible book this year, and it was called The Book of Joy. It was by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and I actually admittedly listened to it on tape because there was so much joy in listening to those voices talk about joy. And one of the quotes from the book was, taking care of others, helping others ultimately is the way to discover your own joy and happiness in life. And that is what service does. And so I would like to thank our outgoing trustees for that service. I hope you look back at this time with this happiness, and I'm grateful because it has taught me to how to be a better servant, and which brings happiness to my life. So thank you for what you brought to the libraries, and thank you so much for the service that you brought to this board. I so appreciate you. And to everyone who continues, please know that there are incredible champions of this library system in this community, and we will keep showing up because it is worth it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jessica Mahon. Jessica here. Jessica, you're up.
Hey, my name is Jessica Mahon with Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I certainly have been following this issue for, gosh, now it's almost been 2 years, year and a half. I first want to say thank you to Regina and Judy for your amazing volunteerism through thick and thin, and for defending the right to read no matter what. Your service is heroic. Thank you. There is a saying that the paradox of tolerance is that you cannot tolerate the intolerant. And while I understand that we want civility, at the end of the day, book banning is fascism. And this board, this future board, will be held accountable every step of the way. And it is of public interest as to how dark money circulated throughout our community, and groups such as Clean Books for Kids, for some reason not being registered as a political action committee, circulating materials clearly advocating for candidates and spreading lies all throughout the community. Every step of the way, this needs to be covered by the press. Every individual that was involved, it needs to be exposed. And I pray for the continued existence of this beautiful library system. And I thank all of the employees for everything you have done through thick and thin. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Alva? Is that right? Yeah.
Is Megan Alcala. I'm from Spirit Lake, Idaho. Full disclosure, I'm a former employee of the library network. Best job I ever had, I was the youth services librarian in Spirit Lake. Judy and Regina, I'm trying to find you guys. Thank you very much for your dedication to our community and our library. I'm very grateful that you two understood and continue to understand the purpose of a library and the purpose of the staff in those buildings. I would implore Mr. Hanley and Mr. Plass to come in as Ms. Robinson did, sit back, learn, and listen for a while with an open mind. Ms. Otteson has not come in with an open mind. I think that it would serve everyone better to stay quiet for a while when you come in. There is, as was said, a huge knowledge gap. You're coming in with a lot of opinions, but not enough knowledge. You cannot come in with demands and expect things to change in the proper way. For people who have attacked the youth services staff at the library, I think that it is quite obvious you have not attended children's library programs. You do not check out children's library materials. You do not approach children's library staff with questions, because if you did, you would be ashamed of yourself for the way you speak about us. We are so dedicated to our communities, and I say we, even though I am still not at the library, because I, in my core, am a librarian forever. And we care so much about your families. I know your children are not my children, but I would never want harm to come to them. These people are the most positive and neutral people. We care very much about our library and the purpose of a library, and I hope that the new trustees take their time to learn and have an open mind and listen from the board members who have been here, and take a note from Ms. Robinson. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I thought to be on now.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Priano. I'm from Post Falls. I've lived in this area for 69 years. And I want to thank our trustees for their calm and their integrity in handling these meetings and the personal attacks and accusations that absolutely broke my heart. You handled it like champs, and I have learned for myself how I handle sometimes these kinds of attacks. I just finished a book that I checked out from the library called The Scarlet Sky. It's about the Nazis invading Milan. And the first thing the fascists did was go to the libraries and the schools and remove the books that were written by or about Jews. They were burned. Enough said. Many of us in North Idaho are very strong about the government not telling us what to do, whether it's vaccinations or masks. Don't tell us what to do. We need our freedom. Yet some of those same people want the library to tell us what we can read. If you are concerned about what your children are reading and checking out at the library, go with them as they are looking at the books in the library. When they come home, your teenager says, oh, I checked out this book. Oh, okay. They're using your card or they have their own card. Go into your account and look at what they checked out today. If they checked out something that you find questionable, then you go to your child and you say, okay, a couple things here. You lied to me. Secondly, tell me why you checked out this book, because maybe there's an underlying reason. Some of the books in the children's section and the teen section deal with some very uncomfortable situations. 7 out of 10 children are being sexually molested. And maybe if they're one of those children and one of their friends said, there's a book called Identical, and it's about a little girl whose daddy's doing some bad things to her. But it also, what that book is about is how to get help and how to end it. That's what that book is about. And maybe what daddy is doing to that girl in that book is happening to the little girl who's reading it. And if you're concerned, a lot of kids don't want to talk to their parents. A lot of kids don't want to talk to their teachers. But maybe one of their friends says there's a book that talks about this icky, awful thing happening to you, but it'll tell you how to get help. That's what Identical is about. Thank you. And God bless you and enjoy your time off.
Thank you. Okay.
Morning, everybody. My name is Ralph Shea. I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I've been here 29 years, almost 30. Grateful to be part of this community. I'm also appreciative of what this community library network does. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Regina, for your tireless trustee board. I hope that you will take some time for yourselves and then be active again as citizens, because it is important now more than ever to be involved. And I am involved in many aspects. I am Jewish. I am Catholic. I am Muslim. I am Buddhist. I am gay. I am a human being. I am all of those things and more. And I don't need to list them all because it could go on and on and on. And I don't need to bore you with more information about me. I will be here. It is impressive to me that the new members of this committee are not here today. That is amazing and shows the representation that they care about. I am grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful to be able to support this board now and in the future and offer my guidance, assurance, experience, strength, and hope to make this community library system available to all people, with all its books available to those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Greenland.
Heather Greenman, Post Falls. Thank you all for your service. I would like to address one thing during this meeting. It was told during public comment to Mariana Cochran that we can't make personal attacks, but then other people came up and made personal attacks against other trustees. So I would ask that we would honor those rules if that's the rules we're going to have. And
We did.
needs to be
We
fair
did
for
honor
everybody.
them. I think everybody here understood. We honored them.
Somebody said something about Rochelle and I didn't hear anybody correct anything.
That's because we had taken under advisement that we would simply let people say.
Okay, sure. All right, well, there's some false and misinformational things going around.
First of all, Clean Books for Kids is just a group of people. I have no idea where this dark money accusations come in. If we do have dark money, I'd sure like somebody to tell me, because I wonder why I'm driving my $300 Frankenstein car around. And I'd sure like some of that dark money to take care of my car. So that's a silly accusation, misrepresentation. We don't have dark money. We're not even a 501c3. We're just a group of people. Also, I'd like to say that the citizens have spoken. We ran a hard election and there was a lot of misinformation going around, one of them being book banners. The only thing that we have ever asked is that the sexually explicit books the children have limited access to them. I think that that's common sense. There's nothing wrong with that. We already do that in movie theaters. When people throw on accusations of Nazis and things like that, I find that very offensive, since my best friend is Jewish. Both of her grandparents actually lived through the Holocaust and had numbers tattooed on her arms. We're very aware of what book banning is. That's not book banning. This is common sense we exercise in society. I'd like to tell Trustees Myron McCrae, I wish you well in your new chapter of life. And thank you to the board. And I'm ready to move forward with the voters and to get some good policies passed in this library. And one of the things I hope that we can do is set up a separate board of parents that reviews materials, so parents have more of a say, and I think we could all agree with that. Have a good day.
Thank you. Jeff Lewis.
Morning, I had to, during this election, I had to vote what is true to my heart and the values and the agenda that I have personally. And I had some issues with the agenda in the library and my personal issues and personal beliefs. So I had some questions I had to ask myself when I voted. So here's some of the questions I asked myself. Why is a 13-year-old allowed to read pornographic or obscene material in a public library when he can't go to a public theater to watch an NC-17 movie? Why is a 13-year-old allowed to read pornographic or obscene material in a public library when he can't watch it on public television? Why is a 13-year-old allowed access to a sexually explicit book in a public library when he can't go to a public school and read that aloud in a classroom? Why are dead authors like Agatha Christie and Roald Dahl and others censored and edited for obscene language when publishers like Simon & Schuster, HarperCollins allowing some teen books like this one right here, All Boys Are Not Blue? Why do these publishers allow these to be in public institutions and not censor their language? So those are the things I had. And why are parents blocked at school board meetings from reading the content of these books out loud to educators when these books are available in our public libraries? Those are the questions I had to answer myself. So I voted for the new library trustees and I will support them. And I just wanted to say, I had to vote my values. The community has voted their values and believes I will support the new library, just like I supported the old library. And I also agree with the previous comment. I think we should have public input and parents come to these meetings where we assess new books coming into the library instead of one or two people making these decisions. We need to have a board of people to make these decisions as parents for our children and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all we have on our list today. Let me pass the list over to Janelle. So the next item on the agenda, it will be the Rathdrum report. We can take a little break while it gets set up. Yeah. We'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Agenda is the Rathdrum annual report with Linda Mahon.
Good morning and welcome to Rathdrum Library.
I am Linda Mann, and I've been the manager at Rathdrum since 2016. Despite the difficulties we have faced during the past couple of years, including changes in personnel, working through a pandemic, and efforts by some to restrict what others have the right to read, Rathdrum Library effectively serves new and established members. 634 new registrations for library cards at Rathdrum were issued since last May. This did not surpass last year, which had a big jump following the COVID-19 slowdown. But the fact that new memberships for 22-23 were higher than the pre-COVID year 2019 supports an upward trend in library membership. New and existing members of our library have expectations of us meeting their needs. Today, I'm going to touch on the past year's happenings and present some of the ways we work to meet users' expectations. People come into the library for a variety of reasons. It could be to bring a preschooler to Thursday morning story time. It might be to use a computer to print a shipping label, or maybe escrow papers for a new home. It might be a quick dash in for a book on CD to listen to while traveling, or in the case of one of our regulars whose husband recently died, to check out anything by her favorite author to help escape her grief. Whatever the reason, most are looking for skilled staff to assist them. Last year, I told you of the problem of staff turnover at Rathdrum. I'm pleased to say that Rathdrum staff has stabilized with no personnel changes within the last year. I believe the compensation adjustments made by the board are a factor. One change that did take place was the creation of a lead circulation specialist position at Rathdrum. Adrian Chappell, who was already a member of Rathdrum staff, accepted this new position. I rely on Rathdrum staff to help our members. As circulation specialists, they listen and do their best to provide an answer to the variety of questions library users have. They also work hard to keep the library organized and put great thought and effort into library merchandising. All are welcome in a public library. Each person is an individual who deserves access to a wide range of materials that explore varying perspectives and experiences. Under the direction of our collection development policy, we aim to provide access to an up-to-date collection for all demographic groups in our service area. This includes graphic novels that tell a story visually. This includes romance novels, the most popular and least respected genre. This includes realistic fiction that depicts real and sometimes unwholesome situations in everyday life. Not everything in the collection will be to the individual library user's interest or liking. Personally, I know I won't check out In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, which describes the murder of 4 family members. It's a well-written work, but not my cup of tea. 14 copies of that title are available in the catalog, and almost all circulated during the past year. I may not want to read it, but obviously others do. To keep an up-to-date and interesting collection, we check the following. We look at bestseller lists and look at what the newest release is by best-selling authors. We definitely check our search statistics. We use a tool called Collection HQ. We go to Interlibrary Loan to check other libraries when we have a special request. Of course, we follow our material selection policy. We check professional reviews from authorized journals, and we listen to our members' purchase suggestions. I especially want to recognize Carrie Wilson, our collection management coordinator. With her professional knowledge and years of experience, she does an excellent job identifying and obtaining materials for CLN libraries. For some library users, digital access to stream music or download ebooks gives them what they want. Some members get a library card just to check out ebooks. We might only have interaction with that member when the library card needs to be renewed or password help is needed. Theme kits are also popular, and our collection continues to grow. Members, especially those with young children, appreciate having free access to these materials that build scientific skills. Members are showing more interest in the Library of Things collection. For some, it isn't easy to wrap their minds around the library having a collection of things. But when it's understood that they have the opportunity to learn about tools and appliances for their projects and hobbies at no cost, they get on board. Library users who are frustrated and confused when using technology appreciate the help we offer. For instance, the woman in the picture wants to use our mobile printing service to print an email from her phone. However, the email account was set up by her late husband years ago. She's unfamiliar with it and does not know how to open the email attachment. Adrian gets her through the process so she can succeed in printing what she needs. Cassie down below is helping a person through the steps for using an online catalog. Our online catalog. The computer services we provide are essential for people who do not have ready access to computers and the internet. Internet access in the Rathdrum area is hit and miss, and some residents cannot afford the service if it is available. Hotspots, which give people an opportunity to be online at home, are continually checked out. Our 24/7 Wi-Fi services serves as a backup for remote workers or online students who experience an internet outage. We have incoming and outgoing bins 3 times a week, transferring items to members' preferred locations. This is one of the services we have to make the experience of using the library uncomplicated. Additionally, people can self-register, get free library cards, use self-checkout, access a refreshed collection of routed DVDs, books on CD, and new books, and not be fined for overdue items. We feel rewarded for what we do when we receive letters such as this one. My dear friends, this is a note to thank you and your staff for making your books available through your community library network to Post Falls. I'm amazed and grateful for the miles that these books travel. I thank you so much. My name is Janet, and I request these books for my 95-year-old neighbor, Norma Murray. She is no longer able to knit as her fingers have stiffened. She made afghans for everyone, so she spends her time reading. Norma had lived on many, many acres, raised and trained horses and grains for feed. She now lives in a small trailer, and these books open the world again for her. I am 85, and I love and appreciate these great frontier authors and their stories. Thank you for making this possible. Sincerely and most gratefully. Lifelong learning is the basis for libraries. Rathdrum has a monthly book club, a knitting group that meets weekly, and since last fall, an acrylic painting class with a constant group of people attending. Rathdrum staff will produce grab-and-go kits that align with special days. These how-to grab-and-go bags for Earth Day were handed out to folks lucky enough to get one. They disappeared so fast. A program for older adults started this year was Fit and Fall Proof. Rathdrum staff worked with Panhandle Health to start the program here and underwent training on how to lead the class. Now 2 classes are held in this room Mondays and Wednesdays with Tiffany working out with participants. Incidentally, the woman in pink, her name is Diane, and she was Rathdrum's librarian in the early 1990s. When possible, we like having musicians here. In a smaller community, the opportunity to have live musicians is a treat for residents, and so our programs are appreciated. Some are of interest to adults and others for families. And I skipped it, sorry. We again participated in Rathdrum's Main Street Trunk or Treat event, and like in years past, we swiftly gave away hundreds of books to children. Now that we've been part of this for the last 4 years, people know that we don't just give away sweets, we have books, and they get in line for them. We held a Project Neighborly event collaborating with Northern Lights Fire District and Rathdrum Police. It was a good day. We gave away books about firefighters and the police. I had to include the picture of the little girl and the firefighter who read for a story time that day. She wanted the book he read, and after he signed it, he gave it to her. We continually brainstorm ways to improve the user experience. We ponder new programs, reconsider the layout of the library to make it easier to navigate, and try to make sure we send out timely information about what activities are going to happen. We also reflect on bigger concerns such as Rathdrum's growing population. It isn't easy to read this graph, but the slanted upward line shows a projected Rathdrum population of over 20,000 by 2028, 5 years. This raises some concerns. How will we provide a successful library experience for this type of population growth? More than likely, more qualified library staff who understand the best practices of librarianship would be necessary. Would an upgraded facility be necessary, which would require the type of planning and community support that took place when this building was constructed over 30 years ago? Thank you, Katie. By the way, this is.
Judy was there too, wasn't you? We were both there.
Yes, and this, by the way, this levy was the most highest passed levy in Kootenai County history. Rathdrum supported it by 94%. So there is a history here of library support. Whatever future changes are necessary for Rathdrum Library, its history tells us that library trustees who understand established public library services and values are vital for constructive development. Thank you to the members of this board who have contributed to this district's positive growth.
Linda, thank you very much. So, questions, comments, or concerns?
One question I have, are these reports then posted on the web so folks have access to your ideas?
You know, I'm not certain, but I can ask Diane Batman and maybe.
We don't post these reports to our website. We only post business and like business documents on our website for.
But if it's public information, wouldn't that be worthwhile putting out?
And it could be something to consider. Yeah.
I would advocate that.
So the levy passed by 94%. What year did you say that was?
Was it 91?
Yeah, at 91, 92, yeah, right
Yeah.
in there.
That was in Rathdrum, and overall, I remember right, it was like over 80% throughout the area.
It was a bond election. It was to build libraries. And we built new libraries in Spirit Lake, Athol, Rathdrum. We added in, we didn't, Post Falls wasn't a part of it. We added on to Hayden big time, giantly. And then followed with Harrison. And then Pinehurst Kingston came on, but they had a building.
Which
So
we had
that's
to rework a little bit.
Yeah, but so that was the start of, I mean, up until then, those building, they were housed in little rooms. But
Yeah, Spirit Lake, it was a Mildred Volin Library and the senior center next door.
yeah.
That's when I built it in Spirit
And
Lake.
then Athol, it was the Civic Center that's across, that's across the way. It was,
Across the way, it was
Okay.
modest.
What amazed me is I read an article where you had a 20-year plan in force already written for the libraries. When you put this proposal out there, that's amazing.
I have a question. Great presentation.
Oh,
Thank you. The STEM kits, is that, STEAM? First off, I always think, are they saying it wrong? You know, STEM, like school, so STEAM kits.
they added art.
That's right.
Good.
Is that something like the Library of Things where it's checked out and brought back? Or is that something that they check out and they keep and they make something?
Use it up, huh?
No, it's definitely, they circulate, so they have to bring back the whatever it is, and a lot of times it's a lot of pieces, and a lot of times pieces get lost, so we have to send them back to youth services to get them replenished, but boy, they're popular, and they travel a lot.
Excellent.
Anything else? You're gonna take us on a tour though.
When you're ready.
Okay,
All
that
right.
sounds great.
Well
Thank you
done.
so much,
Thank you.
Linda.
Well done.
You.
So they added the art, which I think is great.
Mhm.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is staff introductions after.
Yeah. Do you,
I think
oh,
it's dim now.
is Marie, yeah, okay, good.
I found that.
I think if you dim it up now or brighten it, I guess.
I don't.
Yeah.
Power. Literally.
So for our staff introductions, we have Marie Shockley, who is right here. She's our adult programming coordinator and she started May 1st. So I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Tell us about yourself.
Can you maybe come in?
Yeah,
If you
I
can.
can kind of squeeze in. Don't have anything planned to say, but I'm just really excited about the position and the opportunities. I grew up in Rathdrum, like she was saying, when it was a little trailer on Main Street.
Yeah.
That was my library.
Don't forget when it vibrated when the train.
Yes, exactly. It was a good time. So I'm really excited to kind of move into this position and maybe coordinate some great adult programs throughout the district and see what we can do together.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to have local folk.
And then we have Cassie Robertson, who is our communications coordinator. And she started on May 8th.
Hello, my name is Cassie Robertson. I am the new communications coordinator for all of the libraries, including the Bookmobile and Outreach Services. Born and raised Big Blue Hospital. My mom then sat on that board for a long time. Community is really important to me. Moved back here after I convinced my husband Alaska was not my favorite place in the world. And we actually took over my childhood home that brought my parents up here in 1986. So I've got a little one, animals, 3 ducks in my backyard, if anybody would like ducks. But I'm a vandal. I got my dual enrollment from North Idaho College. Marie and I were actually in high school band together. Didn't know that until we walked in. My background is in media and communications, and I've worked on several library campaigns, specifically in Alaska. I'm really excited to be on board, and even with the changes that we have, we're still a great team, and we're excited for Alexa to come on board and us to all work together.
This is great, Bill.
Thank you. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm serious about the ducks, though. French corn and. Yeah.
All right. All right, good work. That must feel great.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And I would, welcome comments on that. Changes, anything? There's nothing.
I have, I think just one thing. On Tuesday, 18 April, Apple, on page 3, at the bottom. A little more than halfway down the last paragraph on the right, it says Robinson asked what Robinson asked what salary percentage to income will be. And either I'm not reading that right. I believe what I was asking was, what's the percentage of the what percentage of the budget will be used for salary? So I don't know if I'm maybe reading that sentence wrong and that's what it actually means, or if we should change that.
I'm gonna answer that.
Okay.
One, well, and then you could tell me, well, I shouldn't answer it. I mean, I could, but
The sentence again is the Robinson asked what the salary percentage income will be.
Right.
so all of the percentages are related to the income, and so that is what is the salary related to the income?
Okay, so that's what that
Yeah.
means, the same thing. Okay, that's fine.
So there's no changes.
No, that's fine, as long as that's what it's, I didn't read it that way, but if that's,
Could be written.
that's what I was trying to project out, so that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm not saying a whole lot because I don't trust myself to talk, but I really, enjoyed reading through the board reports, and that's what's starting to make me feel sad, because I won't be reading them. But anyway, they were great.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Well, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, it's been moved to accept the consent agenda. Any more discussion? Right, then all those in favor
Aye.
and opposed? All right. The next thing on the agenda are the financial statements for the month of April. Comments, questions?
I'll just, our communications budget is underspent because we have not had a communications coordinator. But that line item will be spent, especially when more of the summer reading invoices come in and when we start ordering more, brochures and things like that. So it is definitely underspent right now.
You just want to go sure?
Yes, I was gonna talk about it at the very end, but I can talk about it now if you'd like. That is our summer reading guide for 2023. And last year, was the first year that we did a guide that is, this fancy is what I would say. Like, we have better quality paper. And we used a graphic designer to make it look as good as possible. So this year we were able to take that framework and plug in our data. And we really, we took feedback from staff from last year's guide to make this one even better. And I just wanted you all to see all of the programming that we're doing at our libraries and our community partnerships. And I also want to give a very big thank you to Karen Yother and to Diane Van Etten, who's our webmaster, because they stepped in and filled that role of our communications coordinator to get this sent to press and distributed. So.
So I have a question about the financial statement, line 70, legal and professional, 103,575.
What, I'm sorry, what line?
70. So how much is on that is for our library's attorney?
How much of what we have spent is for our library's attorney?
Yeah.
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I don't know.
I'd have to pull the report.
Yeah, we would have to pull that information and see.
Okay, could you give a guesstimate how many hours she spends per month?
I don't know.
It's varied over the course of the year. It's been increased lately. But I would have to go back and pull their invoices.
Okay.
Okay, then a follow-up, I guess. What's the professional part of the legal and professional? What other people's work is in that category? Like, what would be the professional?
June.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, like we already spent the bulk on hiring her, but when anything extra, that would be.
And like her services for helping draft the policy.
Right.
Yeah. And so Rochelle, are you officially requesting that we give the board that number for the attorney, or what exactly do you want to see from us? So we have clarity.
Yeah, just the number of hours normal for a year. I can average it myself.
Okay, so are you asking for multiple years or just for this year?
I guess last year and this year.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve the financial statements for April 2023.
Okay, it's been moved to approve the financial statements for April 2023. Is there any more discussion or any more questions? Are there any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okey-doke. And then the board reports, are there more comments? On these library board reports?
Just a few comments that I think is very helpful for us board members to get a bigger picture of what all is going on. That we don't only either see or swing by to participate in. There's always more to do here than I can fit in. I look forward to having more time maybe to do that, but most importantly, I think it's a good summary. There again, is this on the webpage? How do people know what we're doing?
So earlier this year, we had a great discussion about what was gonna be on the website and what was not.
Mhm.
And because this contains photos of children and some staff personal information, it is distributed only to the board and to library staff.
There again,
And that's why we,
yeah, and I understand that, especially about the children. But there may be portions of it that could still be shared. I think for the community, if you go on the website to find out what's going on, and I know you, in the, this program said, be sure and go to the website. And that works for some families, but it doesn't for all of them, so I'm glad we have it in print as well. But I think, I think what we learned in our outreach to the community was there's lots more for folks to discover and do than they are aware of. And that's why you've got communication people.
Mhm.
So I'll let you figure out how you want to communicate that. But I think it's only fair to the taxpayers who helped fund this, that we help them discover all the good things that are happening.
And it's like this is a summary of what we have done, but what we need to get better at is telling them what is upcoming and getting them to the library, and
Or in the library to them, because
Yes.
things are out and about.
yeah.
And the thing to look, is a bookmobile schedule on our website?
Yes, and they are included in the summer reading guide for
Good.
this year, so every year it gets a little bit better.
And everywhere you have more to tell about. So
Yes.
Nice challenge ahead. Good, thank you.
And, so also I know that at the libraries, you can get the, printout of what's going on that month.
Mhm.
Yes.
When does that come out? The first of that month or maybe the 15th of the prior month?
So each library creates their own calendar, and so whatever library you go to will have a different answer. I believe they all try to have them at least a couple days before the end of the month, so people can plan. My ultimate dream is that we would create a seasonal guide with 4 of these really nice guides where everything is planned out for the whole library for the whole season versus let's, just throw something on a calendar and hope someone grabs it.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I answered
No,
your
you
question or
told me,
not.
yeah, you did.
Yes.
I mean, you answered it, but you also told us your dream.
Yes.
So, and it's, even this reminds me a bit of, oh, sorry, my time's up. Yeah. Even what you said reminds me of like what the Croc does. They put that out every quarter or whatever they do. And it's so helpful
Mhm.
there. I know when I go into a library, but I don't go in as often as
Yeah,
most
that's
people.
Yep.
I'll see the monthly thing, but I usually get it
Yeah.
halfway through that month.
Yes.
And like, but it's not, that's my fault,
Mhm.
but anyway, that's I think your dream plan sounds like a good one. Thank you.
it also helps to have a new communications coordinator.
Yes.
I would jump in on that one too, because the very reason we're doing our outreach is for folks who don't come to the library to discover what's happening.
Mhm.
And I think I've been caught in that same situation. Oh, I missed that event
Mhm.
because so I think that again, if we could get something like this printed on social media and
Yes.
in the newspaper, that what's going on this week is your library. What's going on this month? I see a new series about stars and astronomy, and I thought, oh, I don't have to go to space to do this. Let's tell our citizens what they've already bought. And I just think it's exciting stuff, and we just hope to help you tell the story. Can't wait to read about it.
Before we move off from the board reports,
Mhm.
I found Denise's teens report just so raw and if any of you didn't read it about what teens in our community are experiencing, I would really just highlight that. That was impactful. On page 32.
Thank you. Anybody else? All righty. The next item on the agenda is circulation statistics. And have those in your packet. Is there anything that the staff would like to comment on circulation?
I do want to just say a couple of things. You know, one of the campaign mailers that went out, I believe in April, said that our circulation has gone down since 2018. And I find that to be a misleading statement. And so I just want to clarify that, yes, circulation went down, I think less than 1% in 2019. And then of course it went down in 2020 because of COVID, but we continue to see that bump up. Like last year we saw an increase over the previous year. This year we're seeing an increase. So I just want to clarify that that is not exactly the full story. And for example, this year our total circulation has increased 8.5% compared to last year. And our new patron count for the whole district has increased 5%. And the number of people coming into the library has increased 12%. So all in all, there's increases.
Thank you.
Could I throw one more in?
Sure.
In addition to your teens report that you had, Regina, I think the ASL group, and that was another part of the excitement to tell people, did you know this was going on in the library?
Mhm.
And in a family heritage where that's been an issue, I know how important it is for the isolation of kids. And just somehow we gotta get the public more aware to come participate. It's a powerful piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All righty. Then the next item on the agenda is the director's report.
In addition to my written report, the one thing that I'll repeat on there is that I do appreciate that you guys trusted me to be the intern. It's been super challenging, but also very empowering, and I just want to say thank you. So, now that now that I said that, I'll go into the rest of my director's report, which is not stuff that was written. So, I want to give the board an update on the library cards for minors implementation. So progress is definitely being made. Mark and Carrie have created a mirror image of our catalog on a test server, and they have created all of the rules that are behind the scenes for patron and item changes that need to be made for this policy. And then we have staff testing the test database to make sure we're catching all of the problems that could potentially arise from the public when we go live. We've also imported the cataloging records into the test database, and we're making changes in batches of 1,000 items at a time. So we're getting those things updated. We've also created an internal framework that will be used to guide staff as we receive new items for the collection, and also guide staff as we evaluate the collection as it is right now. We've identified subject headings that we have heard repeatedly from the community that are of concern, and we have a strategy for if an item has multiple subject headings that it does deserve further evaluation. So we are getting those processes and procedures ironed out. I do want to say that we have not moved huge swaths of books because we are focused right now on children's and on the circulation aspect. And so in our children's collection, there is not a great deal that does need to be further evaluated because they don't have a lot of those subject headings. We are making changes with books that are brought forward in public comment that are of concern. And we are working off of a couple of lists that have been circulated in the community and evaluating those items. So, we are still on track to go live with July 1 for our, the new library cards, and then we are just going to continue to work on the collection from now until January 1st and start evaluating everything. It's interesting because, you know, when we have our monthly meetings with the CIN members, there's a lot of questions about how are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What happens when this happens, etc. And so I think people are watching us to see the changes that we're making and how it's going to impact them. So we are going to be doing staff training starting June 15th, and we have a plan of a soft launch to take this test database and make it a live database, June 20th. And so we'll have like 10 days where we can test it until we truly go live. We have a lot of PR that we need to get working to make sure the community understands it. And, you know, staff are doing their absolute best to get this done. So we're definitely working hard on it.
Thank you.
Any questions about the policy implementation?
I really appreciate the update. That is great. Thank you so much.
Another call. Katie?
Yeah.
You go ahead, when you're ready.
Oh, I don't know that I have questions, but I do have some comments. Not entirely sure where I want to start, but over the course of the campaign, I did have an opportunity to talk with some legislators. And when they were considering HB 314, I sent them a copy of our contemplated policy, the library card for minors policy. So I agree with you, Lindsay. I do think that we have eyes on us. And one of the legislators in particular that I talked to was quite intrigued with the policy. And I think based on Governor Little's veto and indicating that this is a matter best left for local control, I'm very proud of the policy that we implemented, which is why I shared it with legislators, and I have had some good follow-up from that outreach. The other thing that I would highlight for my board members is that the candidate roundup that was published in the press, I had said for my part regarding the books with more mature content and themes, I anticipated would be moving to adult. And I got quite a few responses from the public, emails to me personally, kind of asking some follow-up questions like how are those decisions being made? And I did respond to those people. This was not, through my library account, through the campaign account, indicating that we didn't have a written, we hadn't established the protocol as of yet, but that it was in progress. And so the reason I'm speaking out is just to give you a heads up that I think it is of interest, not just in our community, but Idaho maybe at large. And so when you do have those guidelines available, even though I will not be sitting here, I would absolutely love to be provided a copy. I would also like to make sure that the staff and the fellow board members have my contact information, should you wish to contact me. When Amy left, she did not do that. I wanted to follow up with her and see how her new job is going in Colorado, but you know, she didn't send us like a forwarding address in her email, but I will do that. And along those lines, I'm actually also kind of curious as to when my email account will be deactivated, so maybe you all could let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
One thing that has come up as we're making these procedures and really dissecting what the policy says is we're finding that our practices are somewhat different. Like some of our circulation practices are different than what the policy says. And so we're having to reconcile the CIN circulation policy with our practices with this new policy that we wrote. And there will probably be changes to that policy, which I will bring to the June board meeting, so that the policy is in alignment with CIN and how we do things. And it won't change the foundation of the policy. It will just clarify some of the specific things about how cards are issued and things like that.
Yes, in your report where you spoke about being thankful about being interim director, we're
Yeah.
equally thankful that you were the interim director.
Thank
And
you.
to all the staff that work with you on that, isn't, as we well know, it's not a solo operation.
I know.
And so if you relay our board appreciation to all the staff. That's been through
I
our
have
position.
realized like there is such good people here. Like
Yeah.
this morning, like every time we have to set up one of these meetings, I'm like, these people are here and they haven't been asked. They just show up and they do it and they know that they're helping like a bigger cause. And it's just so touching. So I just really appreciate them and I will relay your appreciation. Okay.
I have one quick question, Lizzie, because you mentioned CIN. I noticed in the minutes that CIN is wanting to change its name. And this is not necessarily like directly relevant to what we're talking about, but is it because it's too close to CLN or what's the deal there?
There, there was this group that was abbreviated WIN, WIN. They disbanded and one of the Coeur d'Alene Library staff wanted to rename CIN, WIN, but am I saying that right?
His reason is because people refer it to as sin, not CIN, and it irritates him.
So we as voting members basically tabled that discussion. Because that's not a solid reason to change the name of an organization.
What does WIN stand for? Washington Information, right? Washington,
Yeah, something.
Washington Information Network?
Washington, Idaho Network.
Oh,
Yes.
Washington, Idaho Network.
Well, what would the W stand for? Situation.
It doesn't say sin.
I mean, because we do have Washington libraries,
Right.
right? So, and also it doesn't say anything about being a library in that. So we needed to think about like what we're actually trying to achieve, which we couldn't determine. And
Other than him being irritated
Yeah.
by saying sin all the time, which Judy calls it that too.
See,
so the next part of my director's report is that, there have been comments and suggestions that library staff are quietly removing or censoring material in the library. And I realize that there is, a change that happened within CIN that is causing this confusion. So in March, within CIN, it was decided that we would agree to do an upgrade to our database. And within that, there was books that are labeled as long overdue lost, have been hanging out in the catalog for eternity. And they hang out there until they're either paid for or returned or off the person's account. And that leads to those books also showing up in search results. So you're going to have things that are actually available and they're going to have lost items. And so with this upgrade, those lost items still hang out, but they're now hidden from public search results. So like, let's say you might have had Little House on the Prairie, like in February, there might have been 10 copies. And now that we did this upgrade, the ones that are long overdue lost are hidden and there's only 5 copies. And so that's kind of why we were getting, what I think we were getting these comments of that we're taking things off the shelf without saying why. Actually, we're not. It's simply an upgrade in the software. Those items are just hidden from public view so that we have cleaner, less messy search results, which is actually a much better customer experience.
So I actually had an arrow to that. It's long overdue, in quotation, lost, change. So I'm glad that that was brought up.
Okay.
So I also had, and I know we're past this, but the traveling displays, and I was kind of curious about what discussion was on that. I know it has nothing to do with us.
West Bonner, they have a Smithsonian traveling exhibit that starts this Friday. That's called Spark, and it's about it's not entrepreneurship. It's something about generating ideas and creativity within a community. And so it's a really special thing that that library was picked among all the libraries that apply to have it here in West Bonner. So that's what that is. And then one final thing that I want to say, I got an email from a staff member and it said, missing book found. And I was like, okay, so what is this? So, there is a copy of Identical that is a paperback copy that has been missing from Post Falls. And this copy was identified. It was used at the candidate forum / debate by one of the candidates. It has also been on multiple social media pages. And it's literally missing. It was literally taken from the library without it being checked out. And it would be great if we could get that item back and any others that might have been taken with it. But
So we have stolen material at the candidates forum.
I mean, in a roundabout
That's
way,
appropriate.
yes. I mean, I don't know how that individual came to getting it. Like, I don't know if someone else got it. But yes, it's not checked out. It is listed as lost. It is library property that is not been handled correctly.
Well, isn't that feasible by reaching out to the candidate and asking them to return it or find out where it came from, or get it back, whoever had it to turn it in?
I mean, definitely we could do that. I haven't had the ability to do that this week, but yes, something we could do.
I would assume that would be the first round of returning something that got misplaced.
Okay, well, thank you. Anything else or any questions?
Yeah, I just want to say we probably shouldn't ascribe motives to someone because of the self-checkout. I've checked out books and it beeps when you run the barcode under it. And a lot of times it isn't checked out. And I'll do that sometimes like 3 or 4 times. And, you know, you have to look at the screen and make sure that the title pops up.
That's true. I've never had that happen. I didn't know that that was a problem with self-checkout.
And did you identify to the staff at the library that it wasn't working right?
Yes, I have.
Which library was it?
Here. This is the old one that I've come to.
Let's go out and test drive it before you leave and see if you got it right.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the Rathdrum Library tour and break. And so we can go on with that. And then we'll gather for the tour. You want the break first? And I would. Okay, break first and then we'll gather for the tour and then we'll come back for the budget discussion.
Yep.
Okay. In the May 5th special meeting, we presented the first draft of the fiscal year 24 budget along with 3 salary scenarios and the budgets we presented were not balanced budgets, and in response to the discussion that was had with the board, we went back and reworked the budgets to get them closer to a balanced budget. So, in your table packet today, there are the purple sheets, that one of them says in red letters, salary scenario A. And then the other one is salary scenario B. And, what we'll do is just begin talking about each of these. And on each of the salary scenarios, there's last year or this fiscal year's budget. Then there is a growth only with 0% increase for fiscal year 24, all the way up to a growth only and 3% increase. And what we did to get closer to a balanced budget, are these changes that are in yellow on your spreadsheet. So, they're also listed at the bottom of the third page of the purple sheet. And I'll just, is this making sense, I guess?
Except for that last thing you just said,
Okay.
they're all.
So if you take, salary scenario A and then go to the third page, down here in this corner.
So you're talking
shows-
front and back. I thought you meant
Yes,
front.
sorry, shows the cuts that we have made. So, we, in order to get us closer to a balanced budget, we reduced adult programming by 10%, children's programming by 10%, emerging technology programming by 10%. Our library collections were reduced 10%. Library of Things reduced 20%. The communications budget 10%. And the technical processing and office supplies reduced 7.5%. Library equipment reduced 7.5%. Training and conferences reduced 20%. Outreach, vehicle repair and maintenance reduced 9.1%. Legal and professional reduced 3.5%. And then we are recommending that we move capital projects, the funding source that's listed in the budget is that it would come from revenue, but we want to move it to CARF, and that would provide a savings of $102,500. So those are all of the reductions that we recommend, and we're still short. We still don't have a balanced budget.
How much?
I also, so let's pause right here, and I also want to go over the salary scenario changes. So in your table packet, you should have a white page that says, salary range scenarios revised May 18th, 2023. And last time,
Wait one sec.
yes, okay.
It's vertical, that's the first vertical.
Oh, okay. All right.
Last time we presented a below market, a low market, and a mid market. And this time we are presenting two options. Scenario A is a low market scenario where we would take the recommended salary schedule and increase it by 2%. and then move our staff into that recommended range, which would be achieving what McGrath and Associates, suggested that we do. And then we would do a 4% salary increase for staff not impacted by that. So that would cost $321,000 to do that. And that's what's on this scenario, a purple worksheet. So doing that gets us to the low end of the market. I know when we met last time, people appeared to be excited about getting us up to mid-market to show that we're making a good faith effort and to, recognize longevity and experience of staff. And in this scenario, we're basically just getting to the minimum that's recommended, making sure we're not lagging behind a year, and doing a smaller increase for other staff. And then in salary scenario B, we do all of those same things, but we add in compression, which is how we can adjust and recognize longevity and experience. And we also adjusted the compression schedule so that it is smaller percentages, because last time it went from 0 to 5% increase, and now it's 0 to 3% increase, but it would still recognize salary or experience for staff. And this would still be considered low, but it would be heading a tiny bit into mid if we did salary scenario B. But to do that, we would need to find even more money because that costs $373,000. I don't know if people have questions or if I should keep talking, because I do have other things to say, but. And
Questions at this moment, clarity?
Yeah, actually, back on the third page of scenario A.
Yes.
Could you restate the move capital project funding source to CAR? Could you explain that a little bit? Or again?
We had initially talked about having some of our capital projects for next year come out of current revenues. And some of it come out of CARF, and we're suggesting that it all come out of CARF.
Okay.
Instead of.
Why?
Because we have a CARF balance that we can use, and then that frees up current revenues to not have quite as drastic of a cut in some of those lines.
And CARF, CARF has only specific things it can be used for, and you found those in what we had planned or what you.
Right, it's a lighting project at Hayden. It is new HVAC controls for the entire district, and it is camera software at Spirit Lake.
Okay. And so what you're helping bring us up to speed on is the CARF, there's limited places you can use it. And you found some.
Yes.
And in doing that, have we jeopardized, reduce the amount that's in CARF, therefore we jeopardize what's next year.
That's exactly right.
And so it's the immediate versus long-term.
Yeah, remember when Vanessa very casually said we could just take it from CARF? We are.
But just so as we do that, we look where the ripples go, which is what's ahead, because I know we've talked, Andy's list has some other things to happen in it. Most of which I think is qualified to be, have CARF funds used to do it.
If you look at, the second page, lines 80 and 81. Line 80 is what we see in our current, what we always see in our current budget, okay? It's not our CARF savings.
So we are not putting anything into capital expenditure at all. You know, so anything we do for capital expenditure will be taken out of out of the money that we have saved in CARF. So we are not able to budget anything for capital expenditures. So we will be relying completely on CARF for any of these scenarios. Is that right? Did I say it right? Yep, okay.
Could you say it again, please?
Usually we put money for capital expenditures into the current, the line 80, which comes out of our current revenues. We take our current revenues, our yearly revenues, and we take money and we put it into that line. And in addition to that, we also have our CARF savings account. We are not being able to put anything into capital from the revenues that we've received next year. There will be nothing that will be going into, nor will there be anything to put into CARF. So we will be relying on capital to anything we do for capital expenditures, we will be relying on CARF. And that is the impact of bringing everybody up to.
And that's like it qualifies to use CARF, because not everyone qualifies.
No,
That's right.
no, just capital, and that's true, not new things, that's a repair, but many of the things that we do for capital expenditures qualify for
Okay.
CARF. Many, is that right? Also, because it's mostly new that we can't use CARF for, right?
Capital asset repair and replacement.
Right, so it's what, right. I don't know if that's helpful. Money is sometimes hard.
Well,
But it is, the breathtaking thing is we have had what has looked like in the last few years, a really healthy budget for CARF and stuff like that. And I kept saying, watch. You know, because it's always been difficult. So if we, but in all actuality, in my personal opinion, our most important asset is our staff.
Right.
And that is what we are trading. You know, so our buildings
For
get,
how long and how much do we do that before?
on the other hand, you don't have staff who really want to come into work in buildings that are leaking. Or roasting, or freezing. So,
Budgeting balance.
right, so this is really a much more realistic situation that libraries face than we have seen in the last few years.
And Vanessa, at the last meeting, you asked a question about like, what are our priorities compared to other libraries' priorities? And so I tried my best to answer that question. I don't know if I did or not, but in another piece of your table packet is a document that says district library budget comparisons. And this is what I did was I compared us to Meridian, which is a very similar size and a district. And then I compared us to Latah. Is that correct, Katie? Okay, Latah. And they are a district, but they are smaller. And so there are big categories. There's their total revenue, and then there's salaries and benefits, library collections, and general library operations. So this shows quickly like where the breakdown in funds are spent as a comparison tool. I also tried to paint a clear picture as to the size and the amount of staff and vehicles that they have, the buildings that they have, just to help understand and provide more data. And so I hope that does something to answer your question.
Could I jump in and looking at it? In the bottom portion of that page where you see on facts, we serve 120,000 people. Meridian's 126, so we're in the same range. Latah is much less. Then as you slide down and look at hours open to the public, you smile with pride that we're at 14,000. Meridian is half-ish or less, and Latah, it's good you put that in there, but it's very different. So.
I mean, they do have 7 libraries like we do, and yet they have half the hours.
Yeah, that's right. We need to look at, maybe they found something creative that we can figure out from it. So I'm glad you're looking. This is very helpful. Because it also, as Vanessa pointed out, helps me summarize, figure out. In the next line down there where it says salaries and benefits. You're showing our numbers is about $26. I'm reading that $26 number. I'm reading this.
Per, yes, per community member. That's how the budget gets broken down.
Per community, okay, so that's a double line to read that.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay, then the scale of what we're doing, if we go back up to hours open to the public, if that many hours open, means the public's in there using our stuff, wearing out our carpet, and
Electricity.
every life, yeah, the facilities are getting twice as much wear and tear, whether that means shoveling the sidewalks in the wintertime because people are coming because we're blowing up. So it was just a good assessment for me of the scale of what we're doing and how others are doing it, and weighing that with what people are spending on it. What's right for us is what we're still back to, but very helpful. Sandy check stuff, thank you.
And the very bottom line, amount spent per community member on general library operations. So community member, that means cardholders or?
It means the
taxpayers?
population, like the service population number.
Okay,
So that's good.
which is, so that the service population, again, is that cardholders or?
Number of people living in it, like the population of the areas of Kootenai and Shoshone County
Okay.
that we serve.
Whether they have a card or not.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That's another number someday we wanna look at is how, what's our ratio of folks who live here with how many of them have a card? And one of our target marks will be how many more can we get to have a card? And what's it cost us to get it? And is our building big enough that they all show up? And it's just, the ripples go a long way, so it's helpful to have the service population being the actual physical population by age. Does this include children? That's another aspect of our special service is children. This population is adults.
I would need to go back and look
Yeah,
at the stats that I
Mhm.
got this from. I don't know if that I think that includes everyone, but I don't want to say that without
You know,
checking.
what age is everyone from 2 up or?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
because that to me also leads to future planning. And we've seen that happen. Some areas are having a lot of growth of young families and young kids. And that branch library may need to customize itself a little bit to that community service area. Just like we tried to do with community rooms. And Rathdrum got a bigger one. Well, obviously not big enough, but it's a start. There's no other community room in Rathdrum that I know of. And that was one of the things libraries did, was at least provide a place, not only for library programs, but the community to use it. So good numbers, go ahead.
Yeah, Lindsay, were you shocked at the the hours open to the public, the big difference?
Yes, and I believe we could benefit from an hours study and make
Mhm.
sure we're using
Mhm.
our staff and our hours wisely. And maybe we go to a schedule where some libraries are Tuesday through Saturday or,
Yep.
some are 7 days a week, but are we truly meeting the needs of the population? And so when I see that high of a number, I think we might actually be doing a disservice to ourselves by not evaluating what we're really doing.
It's really interesting.
Right, that's the biggest thing, right there.
Wow.
It's the biggest thing that separates us
Mhm.
from, and I'm not saying the other two are right, but are what we're doing.
Exactly.
That you putting together these numbers has helped us focus.
Yeah.
And that's astounding, and it was you who asked for that,
So thank you.
and yeah, right, it was. And I find this, by doing this, we're
Mhm.
able to see a way, it just highlights right in our face, okay, this is what we need to look at. Excellent.
And the same thing will go for, this is present time. Then you get to the Rathdrum projections of what the growth is,
Mhm.
and we look at Pinehurst and what its growth is. So again, it's gonna help us focus on which of the favorite child gets the attention and which is delicate. Because each branch has its values and is doing good things. But if there's more pressure on different branches, then we need to customize it. And we've done that before. We've changed hours based on the community's growth. And the school next door hours, because we've had that in Spirit Lake. And Pinehurst Kingston, the schools next door. The balance between serving the school's library need and our community needs will be another one for the board to look at. Because it's easy for the school to say, well, we don't need a library because there's one next door. And how do we balance that demand and wear and tear? So it's wonderful to have a problem of people wanting our services. delicate part will be for us as a board to figure out.
But the other thing too is we have to remember many of our services in interesting, different kinds of ways are becoming digital. So I was thinking of my
Yeah,
library
okay.
use. So I don't browse at the library. I browse online. Or I look up, and then I'm lazy and I put, even if that's at the Hayden Library, I put it on hold and then the library staff pulls it out for me. I come in, grab the book, I leave.
So you
That's
don't
a-
wear out our carpeting.
That is different. It's, well, right there I do. It is different. It is different than how I
Good.
used to use a library. Now, when I do come in to pick up my books, I actually do go browse.
But that's also then an age phenomenon, and it's as the usage of technology changes and little kids' ability to use it, or how children's programs use it. That's a good point. So that, you have a real clear crystal ball, right, about how to figure all this out.
Right, and then Linda was also talking about members that they never see because they use all digital, materials. And,
Going to the
they,
library, going
yeah.
to their library in the jammies, because you can do it online anytime, from
Yeah.
anywhere.
So it's a really good way to focus on, how can we tailor this to community?
And how much more do we spend on technology, because that may be the next library access.
Right.
Got a question.
Yeah.
So the amount spent per community member on general library operations, does that mean like everything?
It's everything that is not covered in salaries and collections. So that's utilities, that's snow removal, that's legal, that's
Okay, so there's no figure for breaking it down for that.
not that, I mean, I would need to have like 3 more of myself to give you a study like that. This is like what was out there, because we would probably need to do public records requests and get specific documents from libraries to do that kind of analysis.
Don't I see at the bottom that this also is information that you're using from 2020?
Yes, that's the most recent that I could find that had all these categories in it. Because otherwise you're comparing apples to oranges and it's hard to get a true picture.
Which is good, it's just that you labeled it, because there's another factor, and we're 3 years past these numbers. And what we're seeing in growth in Kootenai County in various places is gonna impact us again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Going back to the budgets, the salary scenario A and B. Janelle and I went to our annual levy training that is held, and one of the things that they discuss is the ability to take foregone monies. And I know some people consider that not the best thing to do. I know it's looked at and, by different people in different ways. We did do a calculation of our foregone, and it's about $50,000 that's available for operational expenses. Because they divide it into operational and capital. So we have about 150,000 that we could take for capital and 50,000 for operational. In total, we have 160-ish thousand. So we couldn't use that whole amount because does that make sense? Like, we have our amount that we have available is less than the amounts that we're permitted to take. That makes sense.
And is that on any of this paperwork, those figures?
No, I'm like hesitant to bring it up, but, like if we did make a resolution to take foregone for operating, and we went with like salary scenario A, we would almost be able to get close to a balanced budget, or at least closer, like if we went with a 3% increase, which I know is also not everyone's favorite thing to do, but I'm trying to find ways to get us to a balanced budget while not, dismantling our collections and our programming. Because it's really hard for me to talk about cutting our collections when I know that we're already underspent compared to our peers for collections. So it's just a very delicate game, and I just wanted to raise that point.
Could you, I don't know if this is gonna be possible, explain what foregone is?
It's not for the.
Maybe to know. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Foregone is the amount that you decide not to levy for, that you are permitted to levy for. So when we've taken 0, then we have created foregone. Now they have changed how foregone happens now, so you have to have a resolution that if you're not going to take your full 3%, then the resolution needs to say, we want to reserve it for future needs. If you don't do a resolution to say, we want to reserve it for future needs, now it just goes bye-bye and you can never reclaim that base. So we are to the point where we have the 162,000 some in foregone prior to that change.
And when did that change happen?
2 or 3 years ago. So you also have to have a resolution to be able to reclaim it. So of what we have in our balance, it's never been taxed. We can take 1% for operations, or we can take up to 3% for capital projects. If you reclaim it for operations, then you reclaim it back into your tax base. If you use it for a capital project, it is a one-time use and it does not increase your tax base. So by the years that we have not taken our full amount, we have reduced our tax base. And unless you guys decide to reserve it for future needs, then you continue to reduce your tax base.
And don't we lose access to it if we don't resolve, we're gonna hold on to it?
If you decide to not reserve it,
Right.
then it is not set aside and it's gone.
It's not recoverable.
No.
Thank you.
Although that's complicated, and we'll probably need to hear it a few more times. Having served in some other public agencies where foregone was not taken, it came back to bite later on because you missed the chance. So one of the things I want to think about with our board is, do we at least reserve it, whether or not that commits us to using it? Have we put a stake in the ground to say we have access to it?
That 162 we do, right? That's solid, that's solid.
It's moving forward.
I don't think we reserved it last year. That we did not reserve it
So we
last year.
missed that opportunity to get some money,
We missed that opportunity to reserve it.
which means we have a chance to dip into it.
Yeah.
By reserving it. And so I'm just thinking out loud a minute as we try out these ideas. Nothing wrong with reserving it, whether or not we dip into it. This is the first idea to try out. And the second one was the percentage that we can use now. Walk me through that again, the 1% and 1% for operations. And 3% for.
You can use up to 1% for operational expenditures.
Yep.
You can use up to 3% for capital projects. And the levy worksheet that we have, as we fill in our numbers, gives us the exact amount that we could use for either. And since we don't have all our numbers from the county yet, I can't quite fill that out. But it's approximately 51,000 that we can use for operations.
I think, like for me, it's like, I know also Vanessa, that last time you asked like what things could be cut, from the budget, and I, started discussing a few things with Janelle, and it's just like, there's not a lot that can be cut, like software. Those renewals are coming in higher, like that's really hard to cut. We really went over the budget to see what could be reduced, and I think like, the board will, to me, like, it's like the board needs to decide what the priority is. And, do they want me to create another salary scenario that is less than the low end that is scenario A, or how do we want to move forward? And I'm more than happy to do all of those things. I just need direction for how we can get to be balanced and present a budget that will work for us.
So with what you've done with salary A and 50 more or less from foregone would pretty much take care of salary A.
If we took a 3%.
Yes,
If we
if you
took
took
the-
3%,
right.
and we would be very close, and we could, if the numbers, once they're actually live, or we would have
Then
to.
you can, yeah,
finagle a
right.
few
But
things.
essentially, if those
Yes.
three elements are in place, we could do that.
Yes.
So with the reductions that you've shown us, and the reductions and the changes in the salary schedule that you've done, and taking the low salary schedule, but taking the 3%, we could get, and doing the resolution, then we could get a balanced budget. For any other scenario, we would have to start cutting more.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Or you would need to request that I do an even lower salary scenario.
Let's speak to the foregone again, because that's always an awkward one, because the feeling is those are taxes, that's our revenue. We've chosen not to dip into it, but it's not an increase in revenue, not an increase in causing people to pay more taxes, it's recovering what we've had. Is that a fair description? It's using what we already have by having not taken it earlier.
It's not been levied. So it's not money that people have paid that's just sitting in a pot. We've not levied it. So it was,
That's because.
it was
we
our
never took it.
potential
Yeah.
to, we had that potential to levy that, but we didn't. And so it would be a change to, property taxes, 50,000 spread amongst, our service area.
Do we know how much that would be for impact on tax consent?
I haven't done that calculation.
Right, but do you have a sense, is it huge, is it spread out amongst everybody?
I don't have the answer to that, but I did provide to you the 10-year history of our levy rate, just so everyone could see the percent of increase we have taken, if we took growth or not,
That's the
and the levy rates.
levy summary, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk us through this page a little bit?
Tune us up here.
Yes,
23.
I'll do my best, sorry. Okay, so I remember last year there was discussion that taking 2% increase was going to increase the amount of property
Okay.
tax for everyone, but in actuality, you can see that our levy rate has decreased basically every year for the last 10 years. And
Why did it decrease?
it decreased because property values have gone up, and that spreads the
More people
tax
paying.
burden. Like, we can never, the other thing I will say is that at the candidate debate, it was mentioned that we actually took a 4% increase last year, which is illegal to do, and the most you can ever take is a 3% increase.
That's by law.
And last year we took a 2% increase, and it's the levy rate, as long as property values continue to stay where they are or go higher, the levy burden is more distributed throughout the community, and your percentage of that burden is less. And that's what this chart shows, that it's gotten progressively less. Last year it was $15.40 per $100,000 of assessed value. So to answer your question about if we do a $50,000 more or foregone. I don't know the exact calculations, but I cannot imagine that it would be that much more than just the regular budget amount that we would seek.
And thank you. No, you don't have all the numbers in your head, we don't need it, but at least we need to begin to explore which bucket we're gonna dip into and how much we're gonna dip into it is where we are. And so some of the buckets you identified are foregone, levy, increases. It's just a lot to figure out.
It is. It's
Do you have
like,
the answer?
No, I don't have the answer, but I think I'm right on this, but, where you see under fiscal year 22 and 21, where it says 0% when we took 0%. We could no longer say we took 0% because we're recovering it, right? So I mean, you can still use those numbers on a chart if you wanted, but we're taking that. Is that right?
Yeah,
I mean, if we did the recovery.
that's the question.
It wouldn't change that in that year you took 0.
Right. But we would make
But
up for,
we would make up for it
Yeah.
when you show fiscal 24.
right,
So there would be we'd take 3%. We would note that we took a dollar amount of foregone and growth.
right. So I'm just saying, like, if there was another forum and somebody's like, well, for the last 2 years, we took 0%. And you didn't mention that you took the recovery? No.
Foregone.
Foregone, thank you. That would kind of be like, not, I mean, it would be truthful, but that money eventually did come to the library if we took it. Is that right?
Yeah, and property taxes on individual property owners did go up last year. It might have gone down per 100,000 of valuation, but since they doubled or approximately doubled everyone's valuation, the amount of taxes that each property owner paid went up.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. I remember last year, Regina, do you guys remember that? Last year, Regina like really tried to explain the levy system. And you did a good job, but it's been a year.
Yes. Yeah, everyone's taxes, the examples that I've seen, everyone's taxes went up. It wasn't monumental or anything, but they did go up.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know as to why that would be. Certainly, I don't know that the library was a huge factor in that, but, I was more schooled on it last year. Yes, I explained it.
All needed to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual, so the amount of property taxes charged for the library district went up for all the examples that I saw.
The amount of property taxes for the library district went up and yet I paid less.
I don't know that you paid less. I haven't seen your example, but the examples of people's tax bills that I saw, the amount charged for the library went up.
I mean, that would be something we would need to verify and research, which we can definitely do, because I don't know, like, I don't have a comment either way. We just need to verify that statement.
So my assessment went up by $100,000. So then I paid, I don't know. I don't know, so because my property value went up, then even though the assessment per $100,000 was less, I'm wondering if this is what it is, then I still paid, I paid more because I had a higher assessment. I assume that that's what we're talking about.
That sounds right.
Yeah. But don't take my word
Right.
for it.
No,
That's
no,
going over here,
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the time. We have a few other things that are really important to get to. We have more discussion on this and more thought put into it because this is pretty sobering. So I'm wondering if what we need to do is have a special meeting next week for budget discussion.
Welcome that.
Okay,
I think it's gonna take a couple rounds to absorb,
yeah,
for you to generate,
right.
and for us to respond to you with direction, which is what boards are supposed to do. But how do we make this work? Because not that this isn't hard, but it's also hard for you to have to go implement whatever it is we do. So I want to be very thoughtful about what we do, and if we need someone else besides you all to generate this, is there someone, resource in the community? Maybe Regina that can walk us through some of the questions we've had that are the whole taxing issue, not just library. Maybe Janelle, you get to do all that. I don't know.
I think they just did. I mean, actually, to me, I'm sorry. I think they made an incredibly clear,
Indeed.
yeah,
I don't want to diminish what you've done. I'm just trying to process it.
yeah, it may take some time sitting down, one-on-one, but that is why I'm proposing is, for discussion, for understanding, and is that we meet together, next week to put our thoughts together. When we get to, I saw heads say yes. I will, when we get to special meetings, we can look at that.
Seems like it would make more sense to do more of the budget once we have the new members on board who are actually gonna be voting on it.
They could come and, they could certainly come to the meeting.
If we're having trouble absorbing that, I think it's only fair as you both have
Get invited.
part of our
Sounds good.
process and learn with us. And then they get to figure it all out next year.
All right.
Can I ask, is that an official invite? Like who would be inviting?
Why don't we wait till we get to the
Okay.
meeting
Okay.
or that special, okay.
Mhm.
Any more questions that can be answered right now? On this?
Mostly thanks for all the cramming you've already done. Get ready, there's probably more coming. So the pieces we need to save and work on and be ready for more thought.
Oh, we
What
go
you
till
invited
today,
today?
don't we? Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking we stopped at 12. So we have,
We lengthened it to try and get the public comment.
right, that's right. That's right. I was rushing you guys, and so if you need to stay on budget. But it looks like people are ready to put the papers away. I think you guys have done a heroic job.
Yep.
As for
That's
me
good.
personally, we identified the biggies. It's breathtaking. And this is one of the clearest budget presentations that we've ever had, and I just cannot thank you enough.
And with real numbers, that's not just smoke and
Yeah.
mirrors.
And I really appreciate all of the columns that you did, which were an insane pain in the neck, but they helped me so much to be able to look
Like
quickly.
Janelle's keyboard caught on fire because she was typing so much.
Not really, right?
No.
Okay, good. Just like, really?
We don't have that in the budget, I'm sorry.
And the fire extinguisher.
Well, and now find the right numbers to fit in the little squares. Thank you for
Right.
tracing that.
This is pretty cool. All right, our next item on the agenda is the meeting room policy.
Yes, so in your packet, you have an edited meeting room policy document. This was last updated in 2019, and what we did was consult with library staff about our actual practices with reserving meeting room policies and making sure we are in alignment with our actual policy. So there's a lot of edits on here. I don't know if I'm gonna just go over it to the best of my ability. We tried to make the language clearer and a little bit more professional. And one of the first things that was discussed was why does Post Falls charge a setup fee? And then what was the history of that setup fee? So they are the only library that charges a setup fee, and it's to make the community room into 2 separate rooms instead of 1, I believe. And then we learned that the fee went to pay for the wages of a staff person, that was their only job. They would come in when there were times that the room needed to be set up. And then when COVID happened, that person did not return to work. And now we have this policy that doesn't really match with what we're doing. So post-fall staff has asked that we remove the setup fee from the document, and that we, we're trying to align all libraries so there's the same experience for staff and for customers. We also have modified how reservations are handled, and it used to be a paper system, and now we use a product called LibCal. So we wanted that new software to be reflected in the policy. So the actual verbiage for how to reserve a room has been updated to reflect that new software. And we also have changes to the actual number of meeting rooms that we have. At one point, Hayden had 2 meeting rooms, and they now have 1 meeting room. So we took the second room off here as it's being used for staff workspace. And then at Post Falls, the new room, the work room, has been moved to a study room. So it was removed as a meeting room.
And is that the room that we meet in sometimes?
The
That-
small room,
okay.
yes. So that's now available as a walk-in basis, and it doesn't require a full reservation. So over on page 2, we clarified who is responsible for the room. And previously this was a bit vague, and so now we put in an age. We have that you have to be 18 or older, and that you are the accountable person and you're the responsible party. And this is very much a best practice in public libraries to have language like that, so we know if there's damage to the room, we would know who to contact. So we updated that portion. And we also clarified, just that the space is free of charge once we, decide to remove the $25 setup fee, and clarify that we don't allow wedding showers or birthday parties or things like that in the space. And under item number 5, we again clarified the expectation that the room should be left clean and who would be responsible should that room not be left clean. Going over to page 3, number 11 and 12 were primarily about the Post Falls $25 setup fee, so we could remove that. And I think, so those are like the highlights. And this, again, is aligned with how we actually manage rooms at the libraries. So it's what we do on a daily basis, and we're made sure that all libraries with meeting rooms follow this same practice.
So should I just start asking some?
Yeah, oh, yes, go right ahead.
Some have been cleared up already, what you just said. Oh, number 3 on page 2. All meetings held in the library must be free of charge and open to the public. Is that like if somebody reserves this room for, I don't know, gardening thing, I was going to gardening. But it's not a library, program. They have to have it open to anybody?
That's correct.
And that's always been, that's just the way it's always been? And then how would, so like if somebody was just here and they're like, oh, there's a meeting or a group going on, they could just come in?
Yes.
Okay. On number 14, why was that completely taken out? Can you smoke and vape now?
Yeah, it's in the code of conduct, and so we didn't think it needed to be duplicated in here.
Okay,
But do the folks that rent the room then have that code of conduct to know these things?
Ideally, but that's a good point. They might.
Is there anything people sign when they use the room?
No.
So, to Vanessa's point, how do we help folks know how they're supposed to behave? Or that they're gonna clean up, or that they put.
There is a no vaping, no smoking sign on this front door.
Like in the buildings, like in the hallways of the libraries, they have signage there.
Yeah.
In a lot of libraries.
Mhm.
So we're consistent with what
Yes,
your behavior in the library anywhere, as
yes.
well as using in meeting rooms.
okay, so number 4 on page 2. The very end where it says unless the library has agreed to co-sponsorship. Is there a policy for the library's co-sponsorship? You know what I mean?
Yeah, which one's your?
Who, can somebody say, how come you're not co-sponsoring me and you did them?
That's a good question, and I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think there is a policy. I think there might be, like an internal document, like a procedure for, that children and adults use for planning programs that are be co-sponsored, but there's not like an official policy.
Okay, and I don't know if there needs to be or anything. I just, I was thinking back to the thing in the park last year where I was so confused. Did the library co-sponsor it or were they just there? So that might be something to look into.
Yes, what paragraph are you on?
Number 4 on page 2, the very end.
Is this sponsored? Yeah, it's not in red.
What are the examples of things that we co-sponsor?
We will have, like authors come in, and it could be that they're doing a book talk and then we're sponsoring it, and then a percentage of the sales from their book, it goes to the friends. It could be, like Project Neighborly events. Those were co-sponsored with the grant and the library and then the community organizations. So.
Can churches reserve the room to, I mean, I realize they could only do it for 3 months at a time, but I was just curious, could a church that was open to the public, reserve a room for a church service? I don't know.
Church gathering, yeah, that's the difference.
Oh my God, I feel like I should know this. Oh my God.
That's why we're here to help.
I know, I think so. Cause I don't know, now I'm filled with doubt. I don't know.
In Post Falls, church groups have reserved and used the meeting rooms, but for meetings, not for
Services.
worship.
Not for service, I was just curious. I was just curious, like if a church, all of a sudden had a flood or something and they needed a place to meet. I was just curious if, we don't have meeting rooms that are big enough usually for churches, but I was just curious if, as long as they.
And it would,
open.
like, my brain goes logically to that example, which is they would probably want it on a Sunday morning, which is when we're not open.
I see.
So we would not even be able to entertain that kind of a situation. Cause we only offer this when we're open to the public.
I can't really, if we were open and I really can't imagine as long as they were open to the public, why not?
I mean, cause we don't, right, like we don't limit and we don't endorse.
Yeah,
who uses
yeah,
our rooms, as
yeah.
long as you're not requesting money, like they couldn't have an offering or something like that if they had an actual
Oh.
church service, because we don't allow money to.
Exchanges.
Right, so they're like, once you start, cause like earlier this year, we had someone who wanted to have, they advertised a party at the library that the parents could drop off their children as young as like 1 year old and not supervise them, and that there was a $5 entrance fee.
Okay.
So like, we said, we like looked at this and like,
terrible.
this violated so many of our
Yeah.
rules, right? So every time we get a request, that's the kind of things that we logically go through, like, oh, well, we can't do that because of this, so, it's It's, you just work through the policy and handle each request as they come in.
Okay.
But we definitely do not limit or endorse who is using our room. And as long as the public is welcome, that's what matters.
Okay, and I'm sorry, another question on number one. Let's see, oh, to sell goods with a percentage donated, to the community library network. Does that group, at the very, right here,
Oh, way back
on page one? It starts with 4 programs sponsored.
Okay.
Okay. Does that group have a say where that money goes, or does it just go to a general library fund, or can they earmark it like, okay, yeah, we're donating this money?
That's
But
what
we want
I
it to
was,
go to,
I think this actually should say that it goes to the Friends, because that's what the practice is that this doesn't go to the library, it goes to the Friends.
okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
So the sentence actually reads,
Sponsored by the library. Well,
with a percentage donated to benefit the community library network. And the Friends of the Library benefit the community
Okay.
library network.
So
So
that's
I'm not sure if we necessarily have to spell it out, but we could.
if that's up to you guys. If that's what that means, then I'm fine. I just.
Because we
I
have
didn't
2
know.
Friends groups.
Mhm.
So that would be my question is, do you want us to spell out both the Friends groups in there?
If that is what it means, I think it's fine. Unless
Okay.
anybody else is unclear on that.
So what are the names of the friends groups?
The Friends of the Community Library Network and the Post Falls Friends of the Community Library Network. I believe those are there.
And like, if something is for only Post Falls, we go through the Post Falls Friends, whereas the one that's based in Hayden is for the rest of the district. So
The history of that is that when we consolidated with Post Falls, the foundations eventually consolidated together, but the Friends group did not.
Right. So do we have a policy on who's considered a friend? I'm just wondering if this would go to the CLN Alliance or CLN Alliance.
No,
Well,
those are Friends groups.
like-
Those are.
the books that, like, traditionally, library friends groups are the people who help with reselling books that are either donations or weeded items. So when we say the Friends, we don't just mean any friend or any group, we mean the friends that are the booksellers.
Right, right, those are traditional groups attached to libraries, and it's not, that's not a generic, Friends in that way is not a generic term.
Isn't that who's having a book sale at Hayden?
Yes, this weekend.
Look at that. Okay.
We have grant relationships with the Friends as well as the
Right,
foundation.
The money comes
They're
back.
on our, they're on our financial sheets.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Other people with questions?
I remember Katie, in the meeting room use, when the Aryan Nations, I believe, wanted to use our meeting room. Do you remember?
That would be a yes. If they fit.
That was a test for it. Ew.
Yeah.
But they were legitimately qualified to meet
Yeah.
by the criteria we have, just
Right.
as churches are, if you're not within, they're not out proselytizing the library, they're doing their own meeting. And I remember that being a difficult time because that was not a welcome part of the community. But at that point, I think they were testing us a little bit on, can we come meet in your meeting room?
Are you putting your money where your mouth is?
I have a question on page 2, number 2. It's out the word person and put in responsible party. I know it just seems like part of the trend of humanizing humans. Why wouldn't we put person in there?
Like in most, well, my public library experience is that you refer to someone booking a room or, utilizing a space as the responsible party, because that's the person who's responsible for the reservation, who says they're gonna be there, and who is basically leading whatever's happening in that room. And so if you just say person, that doesn't really provide clarity. It's the person who's responsible for booking the room.
So we could perhaps put responsible person signing the form.
Boy, when it says responsible party and I'm signing my name, that's very clear to me.
I mean, if that's something that you're wanting, that's not what I have seen before, but it's also not something that is like an agenda that we're trying to push. It's simply a legal term that is in use in other public libraries, so.
It's very clear.
And it does say somewhere, I think on the first page that, what responsible party is a person over 18.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then you just go, from now on, referred to as the responsible party. It doesn't say that in there, but maybe if you added that.
It does have a
It would-
responsible party here.
Yes, is someone 18 or older.
Yes, paragraph. It says there's no- Right there.
Maybe if we could do that, clarify responsible party on the first page and then just use responsible party throughout. I like a responsible party. It just makes it very clear.
I mean, what we are trying to do is also like realize this is a benefit that you're using and that you need to treat the room with respect. And so using a stronger word conveys what we have for expectations for people using our rooms.
I had a question on that same front page. Way back in the beginning, when the first paragraph, when we were talking about the fee that folks haul.
Yes.
And suggesting we don't, and that staff can do it, with no charge. Are we then taking staff away from doing something else they would be doing in the library? And therefore, should we in fact have somebody hired to do that specializes in setting up rooms and doesn't take away from our staff? What have you found?
A big part of that at Post Falls is their meeting room tables were exceptionally heavy. And it required, more people of regular library staff to set that up.
Okay.
We now have, flip tables on rollers and chairs that have carts to move out and about, and staff have been trained on opening and closing the door. So it's not necessary to have that extra person be a room setup person anymore.
Good. So in fact, what we're having our staff do is reasonable to do for regular
Yes.
library folk that are trying to check in people at the same time. Okay, thank you.
I did note a typo in paragraph 16. There was a red language, notify library staff of a cancellation. Just could we add an L to cancellation?
You
Who knew? Nobody knows that, Regina. I can't figure out commitment. Ever.
Following up on that was paragraph 17. Thinking again, where adults must remain with children under the age of 9. How do we choose 9?
That's what's listed in our code of conduct.
So it ties back to. Okay, because it isn't by age, library card age, because we said that was from 0 to 12 first, and so.
Right, it's what's in the code of conduct.
We're assuming that, 10-year-olds behave.
And there's still a responsible party. I mean, there has to be somebody there,
Yeah.
that's over 18, right?
You hope so. Have you had much experience with abuse at the rooms?
We don't have a lot of experience with that. We have some difficulties with study rooms and younger individuals wanting to reserve the room and then doing some questionable things. But not in our meeting rooms, no.
So far, at least the public. Does anybody in the public, the responsible party can, is working.
Yes.
Which is part of what designing a library's was, is provide. And hopefully it doesn't get abused, and that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so we doubled the thing on the code of conduct for children under the age of 9. I think it would be a good idea to continue to include the no smoking or vaping permitted. And they're just to spell it out. I mean, if someone's gonna run the room, they're probably gonna read this, but they may not read the code of conduct.
I don't have a problem with that. That's fine.
Alcohol was going in here.
So, okay, so it's been a couple days since I've read this. Is there something in there about no illegal activities?
And I guess, can you clarify, what do you mean by that?
Just that someone wouldn't be reserving a room and having some kind of illegal activity going on.
Selling marijuana.
Yeah,
That'd be exchange of money. We can't do that.
yeah, well, otherwise.
Otherwise, just fine.
So if they're having a gardening program, they can't have grass.
Yeah, no grass. That really dates you, Judy. Nobody uses that term anymore.
That also dates me, doesn't it?
Would you like to provide wording for how you would like something like that added as a bullet point?
No illegal activities and I don't know.
Is it necessary? I mean,
It might make someone think like.
do we have illegal, I mean, have we had experience with illegal activities happening in that room?
We have illegal things happen in the library, yes, but I don't know that it's happening in the meeting rooms.
I mean, if that was like if other people want that in there, that's fine with me. I don't think it's that necessary, because I mean, that's just, I guess I shouldn't use the word common sense. But, so I'm like with you, I don't know if it's necessary, but it's also not going to.
It's also in our code of conduct.
Right.
That's what I was about to say, which is this policy, it's not, a silo. It has to be read in conjunction with our other policies, including the code of conduct policy. And it also designates at the very beginning as to what the meeting rooms are to be used for, which is non-commercial, nonprofit meetings. I mean, I think it's just generally understood. They're not for illegal activity.
They do get reviewed before they're approved.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
If we keep number 14 stricken, but we add another bullet point to this, that they must abide by the code of conduct, which states it all.
That covers everything.
Does that? Yeah, and then we can certainly add the code of conduct to information that they're given. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I was also wondering why number 18, meeting rooms may be closed to the public for library purposes. Why was that one struck out?
They moved that, I think they moved that verbiage. What I noticed when I read it was that appeared somewhere else. On paragraph 3, I moved it.
Yeah.
There.
Anything else? Would you like them to make the changes and bring it back next month? Would that be the best, or do you wanna approve it with changes? The changes are a little vague.
Is it an action item?
It is an action item.
But we can choose.
What did you say? The changes are a little vague? Is that what you said?
Some of them feel a little vague to me. If people are feeling they're vague, it might be, it might be best to bring it back next month. As that was or if you are comfortable with the changes, then we could approve it with changes, but I would like to highlight what those changes would be.
We need to identify them.
It'd be better if I could feed things. I'd like to.
Are you guys comfortable with that?
Yeah, I would, I think there have been 3 changes noted. The first was just, the typo with cancellation. Well, actually, that was the second one. The first one was, we're gonna define responsible party in paragraph 3 on the intro page. And then we're going to add a reference about abiding by the code of conduct. Those were the three that I heard.
Okay,
That is what I have too.
all right. With that clarification, would that, suffice to, approve it now? I'm just asking you, I don't, whatever works. If,
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the meeting room policy with the corrections, modifications.
okay, it's been moved to adopt the meeting room policy with the 3 modifications as noted.
Right, recited.
A discussion? I think Rochelle has already said she'd prefer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take the words right out of your mouth.
Fine.
Okay.
Be lazy too.
Was I correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Is there a immediate need for this to be passed for some reason?
I mean, it has been, there is not, like, it's not life or death, no, but it has been on the agenda, I think in February, and then it was taken off so we could talk about director things and it would, I know staff are eager for it to be approved.
And if it's passed today, it could be changed next meeting, or it can be put back on.
yeah, that's true, that's absolutely true. If we're not pleased with it, we
For any
can.
policy, we
Yeah.
could
Mhm.
have dibs on.
Any more? Okay, it's been moved to, approve the meeting room policy dated May 18th, 2023 with the 3 changes as noted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I would like us to have the policy in our packet for next month so we can see the whole thing. We could even put it back on the agenda as an action item, should we want to change it.
Something comes along.
Yeah. All right, the next item on our agenda is, study room policy.
Yes. This was last approved in 2018, and again, we discussed with our staff, like, how do they handle study rooms? And it feels like every library handles them differently, and that creates problems when we have customers that travel from library to library, so we're trying to create consistency. And the first thing that we have changed is that you can have we just reworded it that you can have a library card, a driver's license, or a school ID with a photo to reserve a study room. And we took out the nebulous language of at the discretion of the library manager, because we just want to provide those 3 options to every person that wants to book a study room. And then we also added the responsible party language, and that they must be 14 years or older to book a study room. And that again is standard practice in most public libraries, that you have a age qualifier, which we did not in the original policy. And then under point number 2, we just clarified the purpose of study room usage, which is not for commercial purposes or by those with commercial or for-profit intent. Some libraries, were not letting tutors use the study rooms because they took it literally that tutor might be getting paid. Usually they get paid outside of the library, and thus they couldn't use the space, when tutors are one of the higher usage groups of our study rooms. So we wanted to make the policy so that it was in alignment again with our practices and helping people continue to learn and develop their education. And we also clarified in point number 4 that the time limit would be extended versus just having it waived, because that can set expectations for the person that there is no time limit. And then we added in bullet point 9, which is that again, the responsible party is responsible for damages to the facility or the equipment, and that they will be billed for cleaning. Our study rooms do take a lot more hits as far as usage and dirt, and it's, they're smaller spaces, and people have sort of a sense of freedom, I think, in study rooms that they might not do things in the regular library. So we added that statement just as a way to establish who is responsible for the space.
Okay, I'll start with number 9. I assume the responsible party isn't a 14-year-old, but the parent of that 14-year-old, and does that need to be spelled out more?
Actually, no, the responsible party can be a 14-year-old. That's it must be 14 years or older, which is the last sentence in paragraph number 2, because we do have teens who come and tutor other teens, or we have teens who, are tutor middle schoolers. So we can't, it's not really a good idea to limit it to 18 and older.
Right, no, I didn't mean that.
Okay.
What I meant is it will the parent of the 14-year-old that's using the room know that the 14-year-old is doing it? What if say he destroys something in there? It's the parent that's actually the responsible party, right? Of the property. The 14-year-old. Is that right?
I mean, the way this is written, it's the 14-year-old.
But I mean, I don't think you can take a 14-year-old to court.
Right, that is true. That is true.
So does it need to be spelled out?
Is it the parent of the?
Yeah, I don't, Regina, do you have any idea on this? I just know that a 14-year-old can't be, because it says that you can be 14 or older, but you can't recover damages from a 14.
Yes.
But they have a library card, right? Right, I just didn't know if it needed to be, if the parent needs to know that it's possible the kid is using the room.
We have received restitution from teens that have damaged property, not necessarily from using the meeting room, but from destroying a drinking fountain. And they have gone to court for it, through juvenile detention.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a really good point, I mean, right, because you're right, under a contract, it's not legally enforceable via contract law to find a minor, but.
I think that what you just said, let me see what she has to say.
Well, the destruction to property would be a crime, and that's what John was referencing.
Yeah, and I'm talking more like it's an accident. Are there computers in there? I don't know. Okay, I'm talking more like maybe an accidental destruction.
Like if it was an accidental, we would have a conversation with that individual. They would explain it to us and we would just manage the situation. We wouldn't be billing that 14-year-old unless it was really egregious, So I don't know if that clarifies.
So you're saying that in these rooms, there's nothing that could be damaged enough that would, I just want to make sure that the parent all of a sudden isn't like, my 14-year-old was doing what? In what room, So I don't know. I mean, I may be way off on this, but.
No, if there were computers in there or whatever, it's easy. And my water bottle and, and there were, then I just fried a laptop. I suppose they can take laptops in there.
They can check out a laptop and take it in there. But the rooms just have chairs and tables.
Yeah, and then the laptop would be covered under the other policy.
Exactly.
So, okay, that's fine if it reads right. I just need to ask. Yeah, and that's all I have.
Could I think about that one with you, Vanessa, because it talks about in order to use the same paragraph, maybe checked out through the library circulation system, a community library card is required. For sure, or one of the choices?
It's one of the choices.
So you might not have a library card, which would not be done.
Right, but you would, so like if you were checking out a laptop in this situation, you would need a library card, thus you would have that information. But if you were just bringing your own laptop or you were doing tutoring, you don't have to have a library card. And the reason we put, that in there is because that is the practice that we have at some libraries, that some people can't get a library card. because of various reasons, but yet they need that space to maybe study for an exam or do on the job, video training or something like that. And that's the only quiet place they have. So we didn't want to be restrictive in that fashion.
Which is good, and but that's the same paragraph has that 14 years old. Around to it. For Vanessa's point about behavior or damage. So we don't necessarily have recourse to family, a parent, because if the card isn't used, the person who was using the card had to work on the parents to have the card.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of the folks who don't have a card still having a chance to use it. And we don't require that they necessarily be residents of our library district.
Right,
I'm not
right.
good or bad, I'm just thinking through, but they can also only use it for a certain amount of time. And then you're back to evaluating, extending the time, or somebody else is waiting, taking their turn. Okay, thank you.
Rochelle, wait a second, Rochelle, if you're something.
Yes, so could you make a notation for the next library director? Because I had asked and was told that we would all be getting a copy of all of the policies so that we could just look them, have them at our fingertips.
Okay.
That hasn't happened yet. And with new ones coming in, that would be really helpful to them as well. So anyway, I was specifically thinking of the code of conduct. It would be useful to have a copy of that, and perhaps we add a number 10 in here that says that they must abide by the code of conduct for the library and applicable laws. I've heard rumors, and I'm not saying it came from even our area. I don't remember where I read it, but that there have been problems with young people and sexual activities in study rooms.
Ours have windows. Don't they all have windows? Anyway,
Anyway,
no,
so just that, if there were a problem, that their privileges for the study rooms would be suspended.
So Michelle's question about the policies, once upon a time, I don't remember when it was, and John Hartung always told me that I didn't want all of them because it would be just way too lengthy, but he did give me access to like the intranet or whatever that you all use, that they're all on there. And that just, I know that that's an option because I've accessed the policies that way before.
I mean,
But I don't recall how, or if I always had that access, or,
so like all of the public facing policies that you are responsible for are all on our website that anyone can get. So I don't know if there should not be policies on our intranet that are not for the public. Is that what?
No, it was different. It was like, cause at that time, I think I was wanting to review a lot of the job descriptions. And he had given me access and I was able to do that, just,
well, what we can note is, for our new director, is how can trustees access the policies that they're responsible for. We already can, we already can access, like the code of conduct is on our website. So we can already access a considerable number of them, but for example, personnel policies aren't there. So, and we've already got that request from you that's been on for 100 years, but it's still a very important request, that we look at our personnel policies. So if we can find out from our new director how the board can have clear access to the policies that it is responsible for.
Okay, yeah, I like to be able to write on something and it's always hit or miss whether I can print something at home, so.
Oh, okay. They certainly can be printed at the library for you, and then handed to you. Okay. Okay, so what do we want to do with this? How comfortable are you with what it says? Rochelle has requested that it have some language referring to the code of conduct. Anything else? Was that the only addition, the only change that was?
That's what I have noted.
Okay. If you don't have any you know, and we can do the same with this policy should you want to. Yes, it's an action item. We need to hustle.
I move that we adopt the study room policy dated May 18, 2023, with the addition of number 10, having to do with the code of conduct.
Okay, it's been moved to adopt the study room policy dated May 18th, 2023, with the changes concerning code of conduct added. Is that okay? Is that fine? Yeah, okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right, done. The next item on the agenda is an executive session, and I put it there just in case we needed it, but we don't. The next item, the item after that is succession planning. And I will, and I'm gonna, Lindsay and I talked about this onboarding plan. But I will say that I did speak with Alexa, and she is ready and coming, and you know, her first day of work here is June 5th. And she's, you know, very aware of the changes that have happened on the board, and I know that she is talking about an orientation plan for new board members right away. That would kind of, I'm morphing into continuing education for trustees. And that there may be some discussion of that before our next board meeting. And basically what she's looking for is a roof. What? A house. Oh, a house. And having some luck there. So, that is kind of where she's at. She sounds enthusiastic and, you know, very pleased to be coming. So that's really all I have. But Lindsay, onboarding plan, Lindsay and I talked about the onboarding plan, and Lindsay said, how about if I take it and look at it? Because most of it is procedural. And so did you want to say anything?
No, I mean, it's going to get done. We don't know when, but I want to tie like some of the goals to the strategic plan, and so that we make sure everything, there's like synergy. And so it definitely will get updated and will be shared with Katie, and then Katie will share with the board.
So we'll do that. And yeah, we looked at it together, and it was like, you know, there's a box for us, and then everything else is everything else. That I couldn't begin to direct the director.
Well, and given that we created that onboarding plan 2 years ago, it's pretty fresh.
Yeah.
Except for, like you say, the new strategic plan.
So is there anything anybody would like to add to that, or anything? That's kind of where we're at. All right, facilities update? Anything?
No.
No giant leakages or anything like that?
Well, we
did. Oh, dear.
Last time Randy discussed the Hayden roof, and so the contract that would go out for bid has been sent to our attorney for review. So once we get the approval from the attorney, we're ready to start, you know, getting that published and then accept bids for the roof. We hope to, you know, get progress.
That roof will be delightful to not be talking about that roof.
Well, I know the last few years, I've kind of harped on long-range planning as far as facilities go. And we've had constant kind of other things that have taken precedence. So obviously I will be outgoing myself. So just, I would urge my fellow trustees to not neglect long-range planning with respect to our facilities.
Which leads back to budgeting.
Which also leads back to the onboarding plan for, a facilities master plan. Okay, legislative updates.
I guess I'll just do the highlight again. We talked before, you already visited with some legislators, they'll be going back next fall. Seems to me it's an important time for our library board to have met with them. Highlighted to them what we're doing, what we've done. So they can feel like they're up to speed on concerns they've had. And, help them be more constructive for library legislation if they're gonna need it next year.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the nominating committee, which usually gets appointed and the chair appoints the committees. So I've asked Judy and Vanessa to participate on that nominating committee for a slate of officers at our annual meeting next month. And I just put two people together, but it's important to me that nominating committee get together with the other two and get, I mean, as much input as you guys would put into it, to talk to everybody about what that would be and what that looks like. And then Vanessa, you'll be able to present that slate at the next meeting.
The next meeting is the annual meeting, right?
Right.
So it needs to be done then, so it's an
Right.
action item.
Right.
Okay, so how do we do the input thing without violating open meeting laws?
You'll have to figure that out. I would imagine you, but I mean, you're not making action. I mean,
That's just two people.
you can call each one of, I think you guys need to reach out to them.
I could call you and talk to you anytime I wanted to.
Yeah,
Except
or
for the
me,
call.
or me.
A violation if she then tells Judy?
No.
Not
No, this is a committee thing and it's a slate that will come. There's no action being done. That's what, committees do. If you sit down for a meeting, anybody can be involved, but it is not required that you put it on. I don't think it's required that you put it on but there's just two people that it needs to be public, but anything we do, the action will be public. So.
I don't think it necessarily means that Judy and I are gonna talk about everything that you and I talked about. It's gonna form in my brain what my decision would be.
I'm just asking you guys to present a slate.
Yeah.
As the nominating committee has
Does that
done
make sense?
every year.
Like when I talk to you, I'm not gonna tell Judy everything you said. It's gonna just be in my brain and help me decide on what I think would be best, and she might have a different, what she thinks is best, but we'll have to. Make a slate. Yeah.
Solution.
So, and I also want to remind you that you need to consider the treasurer position as well.
Walk us through that. What does that mean?
The treasurer position and the clerk position, actually, there's a chair
Right.
and a vice chair. There's a treasurer and there's a clerk. The treasurer and the clerk do not have to be members of the board. They can be asked to participate as in that position and not be members of the board.
The clerk can do it, the treasurer.
Yeah, and the clerk can too. I read that.
Can the same person be both?
Yes.
If they're not on the board.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it doesn't say anything that they haven't. At the end of the meeting, I will show you the Idaho Code part that talks about this.
Good.
Okay. All righty. So there's that. Any community announcements that need to be made? Anything on public comment overview?
Well, I know we're supposed to speak to the public comment that was last month instead of this month, but since I won't be here next month, I mean, it was just really nice to hear the outpouring of support from the community for Judy and I and the well wishes and the thank yous. And so I would just say back to the community and to staff, thank you. I've obviously really enjoyed sitting in this seat.
Yes, I'll do this. I'll take a turn while Virginia and I both have treasured the time with you all, working on important issues that I think have long-term implications. We're always available to help in other ways. If you see other ways we can help, because the libraries mean a lot to both of us. Did I do it? Okay, we're done.
Thank you. And I'm gonna say something about last month's public comment. We were read to from a book. And one of, the book was in the adult department, from the adult department. I don't even think we owned it. I just continue to be concerned about that, I guess.
Let me jump in on that one in a second, because I think what we learned with one of our goals is, as election time is raising the profile of libraries. I think we've done that, helped identify issues that are not easy to solve, but important to be sure that the community is aware of. And that libraries work hard at providing accurate information. And that was a challenge for our library discussion time for the community. And so I'm hoping that the library can continue on that great effort to provide all kinds of information, all of it accurate, which is helpful for folks who have access to the internet and can't sort that out. There's a really important role here for us and our citizens of all ages. And certainly as evidence that there's more need for that than ever. So thank you for your work on making that happen.
Okay, thank you, Judy. So discussion of future agenda requests. Is there anything here that we need to do?
This is embarrassing, but it's been so long since I requested this. I don't remember quite why, about the personnel policy manual. Anyone else remember?
I always thought it was a great idea. I mean, I thought that the personnel, that we be aware of personnel policies, and I think that the personnel policies need to be looked at, and it's, I don't know, I thought it was a good idea. We are, I remember when you did it, it was in, Wachahoozie, Pinehurst. And, it was a long time ago, it was, but we were understanding then that that would be something that we would probably work at with a new director, which also would be valuable. But we are responsible for those policies and we're not really aware of them, and they probably need to be looked at. Do they? Yes, and they do need to be looked at. So to me, it feels like an important thing to keep on there.
Okay, well, yeah, I wasn't saying take it off. I was just like, didn't remember the specific reason.
I always thought it was a good idea. All right, the next item on the agenda is that special and regular meeting dates, and I alluded to a budget because of the depth of concern, and I think it's a good idea to invite our new board members. Did you want to do that next week? Because we have knowledge, we have knowledge from our two other board members. That might be a valuable meeting to help bring up to speed new ones. We can set it and see what happens. You want to?
Yes.
Or not?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty free besides Monday. Actually, even, Monday later, I'm pretty free the whole week.
I don't know, it was torturous it was torturous enough for me to sit through this one, contemplating it being my last one, but I obviously will do what the board, what the board chooses to do.
I can understand where it would be very hard, but I also feel like that might be a valuable thing to do. To have everyone here talking about the budget.
Okay.
Library staff are unavailable the 22nd and 25th.
What day of the week is 22, Monday?
Monday.
Okay. No Monday and no
Thursday.
Would you like to try for Tuesday?
Third, yeah.
2 to 4.
Post Falls?
I'll have to see what space is available, and it will either be probably Hayden or Post Falls.
Okay. I am sorry to torture people. Very sorry. I am very sorry. I just think that, anyway, you don't have to show up.
I think it's a tribute to how much we believe in the library.
Yeah. All right, then if there it is, 2 to 4, and we need our treasurer as
Can
well.
I, like, are we in, who's inviting the new, like, how's that supposed to work?
I would be happy to do that if that is,
The board chair is a little spot.
yeah, okay, can do that. All right, we will do that. Then we will wait to hear where it's going to be. Anything else? You guys, 12:27.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, it's been moved, we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. I didn't ask for opposers, I'm assuming there were none.